There are a couple of sounds that I think cause people who are learning English to overthink, stress out, not concentrate, lose focus. And those sounds are particularly vowel sounds. I want to take a look at diphthongs, where basically you have two sounds that link together to make a sound, and also R sounds. And specifically, this is brought up by, let me bring it up. This is by Love is Forever. Made comments that we haven't covered them. I'm going to post also links in the description so that way you can find out more isolated videos for each of these sounds. But we're going to be taking a look at a couple of these, talking about some strategies to get some vowel sounds and some R sounds more natural without overthinking them in American English pronunciation. Good morning, guys. Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to your daily American English pronunciation show, which is Wake Up American. We are here Monday through Friday, typically between the hours of 7 to 8 a.m. New York, to make sure that you can get in your 5 to 10 minutes of pronunciation practice for the day. And to guide you in that process, there is me. Hello, my name is Geoff. Rise of breath. That's one of the 4 keys to a natural sound in American English, including placement, pitch, breath. Trying to weaken your consonant sounds in order to strengthen your vowel sounds, all those things we're going to be discussing. So let's take a look at the list here. So the first thing, we see a lot of R sounds, right? So we have like sounds like in better, we have R sound like in large, we have an or sound like in more, we have the air sound like in square, and we have the ear sound like in here. So one of the things that I want to just kind of talk about for these R's is that let's not overthink it in the sense of when we hear R sounds in American English, we have a tendency to make them into these really strong, heavy, like really like growling at people because we're like American English R sound strong, and it's like, well, kind of. What we really want to be thinking is that when we have these sounds in American English, the R sound needs to be present but not dominant. So we don't want the R sound to completely take over what we're doing. So all of these sounds that you've given, I'm not going to go into specific detail on each of them because I do have an R video that looks at them in a little bit more detail, but just some tips on R's you want to consider is that they're ending on like an er, er. It's just that real light with lots of breath coming through. Some things with this is the back of the tongue is high. The very front of my tongue, what I'm doing is I'm keeping it down. If you raise the front of your tongue up here and you're like, that helps me make a better sound, then do that. I'm not bothered by that. I'm really much more concerned about what's happening with the back of the tongue. Back of the tongue needs to be a little higher. And again, sounds like Make sure that your throat stays open enough. We have a tendency to really close. See if you can hear a difference between like an and an again, This is a case we're doing that kind of window exercise where like you start with a really open sound and slowly close it and then open it again. It's like See how like it got tighter and then it got open again. So that's something that you can try to practice just to kind of start building awareness in your throat and how much air is passing through. So I'll definitely practice that. The other thing is that you want to make sure enough breath is going through at the end as well. So when the R finishes, keep the breath extending. It's like er. Okay, so just to kind of give some examples, when you pair this with some different vowels, like if you pair with an E sound, like in here, you're finishing it on that sound again, right? E, 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 ear, ear, here. So that's a little example of an exercise that you can do with any two sounds that are joined together, in this case an E sound and an R. Pronounce your first sound, pronounce your second sound, and then gradually bring them together. It's like E, ear, things like that. And then just kind of gradually making that space smaller. Another example, like for instance, the air sound. Again, like in the word air or fair or care. So again, air, care, and things like that. The R sound at the end, again, for all these words, is going to be very light. It's going to be very weak. The last thing I'll say is that as you get to the end as well, very often it's going to be lower in pitch. So, for instance, like hair, care, there, and things like that. I guess just kind of some things to be watching out for there. What were some of the other sounds again from that list? They mentioned diphthongs. Okay, so diphthongs in American English. One of the things that you want to consider is that American English may not be treating diphthongs the way you treat diphthongs in your first language. The way American English treats diphthongs, in my opinion, is it takes the first sound and the second sound and it wants to compress them into a single space. So instead of pronouncing each sound equally almost, you're trying to squeeze it into a single new sound. So for instance, we looked at the A sound. So instead of doing like an and then an E, like A, you think of, for instance, if anyone here speaks Romance languages, like in Italian, there's like this A sound, but in American English it doesn't really exist because it's just like A, A. You can think of, for instance, the very first letter of the alphabet is just A, A. Okay, so that's really the sound you're kind of going for. We're not saying A, A. I mean, you might hear people doing that in like exaggerated times, but a lot of times you'll just hear a single sound, just A, A. It's like A, say, or A, play, or A, ray, A, ray. Okay, so it's not A as much as A. Some things that may help with that specific sound if you're having trouble with it. A, I'm having to tip my tongue down personally. The mid back of my tongue is a little high, and notice my mouth's a little wide. A, 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 A. You can kind of see my tongue there. A, A, A. Okay. Another diphthong that was mentioned as well, the I sound, like in nice or bike. It's like A, I, A, I. One of the things you'll see is that when I'm saying that I sound, my mouth's closing a little bit. Okay, so my tongue is going to be a little higher towards the top of my mouth. But again, we're trying to keep it open. So it's not going to be E. It's more I. Again, this is a case of it's like the letter of the alphabet again, right? I. So it's not I. It's I. A. I. As you're doing these, if you feel like your placement's going really high and you're not getting a very natural sound, try to pick a sound that you feel more comfortable with. So for instance, like if you can make an ah sound, you're like you're like, okay, I think my placement for that is pretty good. Then try to transition to the new sound you're working on and see if you're able to get a natural sound. It's like ah, I, ah, I, or like a. If you're doing like a, where it's like, oh wow, I feel a lot more tension when I do that A sound, or I feel my placement going high. That's not right. We want the same feeling. So instead of doing like A, you might do more A. Oh, that's better. Now I'm in about the same spot. A. Or like it's not I. No, it's more I. So try to be in the same spot. So again, I, Y, I, Y. Or like I, pi, pi. One final diphthong, I believe, was two diphthongs to talk about. We have the oi sound, like in toy. Oi, oi. The one thing is that you may feel like you have to round your lips for this, but I would kind of caution against that because that might shift your placement towards your lips. So I would actually do the opposite. Maybe try to straighten your lips like oi, oi, oi. And then you can practice relaxing your lips more. Oi, oi, oi. You can see again, my mouth is mostly closed. Okay. It's not oi, where you get a lot of tension again in your lower jaw. Try to avoid that. Oi. It's like oi, boy, oi, boy, or oi, toy, oi, toy. Again, not oi, toy. It's oi, toy. Similarly for the O sound, like in go or slow or boat. The way you may be doing this in your first language may have an O sound, but you might do like O, with like really long lips, or oh, and things like that, where the breath kind of cuts. But remember, we want to extend breath. You don't need dramatic mouth movements for this. We're compressing again into a single sound. So it's not oh, it's just oh. Oh, see how my lips are staying relatively relaxed and straight the entire time. The back of my tongue is slightly raised and the front of my tongue stays down. Oh. So again, like oh, go, or slow, slow. One of the things you'll notice I'm doing that you can do for all these sounds, I'm doing the vowel first and then I'm doing the full word. Try to bounce between them. Make the vowel the same, whether it's by itself or a consonant is around it. So again, like go, go, go. The O sound should sound about the same for both of those. I hope this helps cover some of those sounds you were asking about. If you guys have questions about other sounds you would like to hear, please let me know. And the last thing I'll say is that if you're looking for more practice on these specific sounds or other specific sounds of American English, one app that helps to sponsor videos like this is ELSA. You can get a free pronunciation test and free exercises to practice, like all those sounds that we're talking about here today and more on their app. That's actually where I think ELSA shines the most, is on those individual sounds and practicing them. Just make sure as you practice them, try to keep your placement down with lots of breath coming through. So if you're interested in that, you can see the video description or the comments. But hey, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I know there's a lot of pronunciation resources out there, so the fact that you spent some time here with me is appreciated. I'll see you all later. Hope you guys have a good day, good night, and a good afternoon.